Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Fulfilling Work, Meaningful Life. I'm your host, Anthony Craiker, and I am so excited to have our guest on today. I'm joined today by Tobi Ojekunle, host of the popular Mirror Talk podcast. Tobi, it's so wonderful to have you on the show today. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much, Anthony, for this opportunity to be on your podcast. I'm really grateful. I'm looking forward to having a wonderful conversation with you on this.
Me too. Well, let me ask you, I gave you a heads up, a little bit of a heads up, not much of one, but let me ask you, what's the most meaningful experience you've had in the last week or so?
Yeah, thank you so much for that. I mean, when you gave me the heads up, I was like, wow, I must think of something somebody that's been running. But then I thought to myself, I don't have to think so far, you know, into the past. I mean, last weekend I had the opportunity to spend time with some of my friends.
Mhm.
There's a family I visit in another city from where I live in Germany, and so I arrived there Friday evening. This is Monday at the time of recording. I arrived there Friday evening, and then the mother told me, "Oh, I have to be in church. I'm a Christian, and
Mhm.
she has to be in church that evening." I was like, "Oh, okay. Let me drive you." And she had to stay overnight and have some retreats, stuff like that, in the choir retreat. I was like, "Okay, let me drive you to church, and then we'll go to I'll sleep over in the church, and we'll come back in the morning, so that you don't have to catch the train, and maybe it could be inconvenient for you to get back home early in the morning." Yeah. So I mean, on our way to church, we started talking, and I started to learn from our conversation. I started to learn so much the importance of time and phases of life.
Mm.
The phase of life that we are in, and with the lessons that we have to learn from those phases of life, and how we should not rush the time that we're in right now, or the phase of life that we're in right now, because if we start rushing, we could become so immature for the next phase, and then we just roll through life that way, and we become frustrated because we're not prepared enough for the next phase, and we are in an hurry to move on to the next phase, and we're not satisfied, not grateful, not fulfilled from any phase of life, because we were just running through life without enjoying the meaning and understanding the meaning and purpose of why we are where we are at the moment. So that conversation for me, that 40 minutes drive that evening, Friday evening, sounds very meaningful to me right now. I mean, it's something I'm still reflecting on at this very moment.
That's wonderful. That's a great example. I appreciate you sharing that with us. So let's talk a little bit about Mirror Talk. So on your show, and I've listened to your show, I've really enjoyed it. You encourage self reflection and growth and things like that. What inspired you to start that podcast, and what personal transformation did it spark in your life when you did?
Yes. So about 5 years ago, I got this. I was very, I was very not at rest. Basically, I was very, moved in my spirit, basically, to start a platform where I could learn from people's experiences and also share these, lessons with other people out there. But
Hmm.
I mean, years back, I've always been having this urge in my mind, this passion, to start something that could impact people out there. But how did we get there? I have this passion for learning. I have this, very, very curious mind. Some of my friends make fun of me that, it's curiosity that killed the cat. So maybe I should be very careful. I should be careful with the things I try out, and how much curious I am. But there's something I've learned in my life so far from my mentors also, and that's the fact that it's actually cheaper to learn from people's experiences, people's story,
Hmm.
because you could take the lessons from their lives and use it to improve your life, and you could avoid making the same mistakes, and that saves you a lot of time. And that
Yeah.
way, yes, and that could be very costly if you have to make the same mistakes yourself. So at this point in my life, I started working already, but I started noticing that I have this kind of gap in my life. Like, I was not feeling complete. Like, I
Hmm.
was like, okay, I'm making progress in my career, but I don't feel so round in terms of, my personal life, in terms of, relationships and every other part of life apart from just career. And so I thought about, reaching out to people, speaking with them. And at the same time, a lot of people look up to me and say, "Oh, Toby, how are you able to achieve this? How are you able to get to this point in life?" And at that point in my life, if I'm honest, I was empty basically. I just like, I'm here, but I don't really understand, losing the meaning or the purpose of life basically.
Hmm.
So at that point, I was like, okay, if I'm able to speak with people like Anthony, for example, have conversations with them, record it, and learn something from it, and also share these lessons with other people out there who are probably going through the same thing, who want to learn from this, then that way I'm able to kill two birds with one stone. Basically, I'm able to learn and also impact other people out there who are willing to learn also. And that's how the podcast started.
How has that changed you over the last however many years you've been doing it?
Yeah, so in the last 5 years, that's really changed my life. That's really helped me to see things in different ways, like changing my mindset basically to the to how I
Mhm.
take things. I mean, prior to the podcast, I know a lot about gratitude. I know a lot about being thankful for the things that you have. But in this journey so far, I've been able to be more intentional about it. Really you, you make use of the power of gratitude, for example, and
Yeah.
that way, and also see things in a different perspective. Okay, things are working, for me and not against me. And understanding how to make use of what life places at my feet at every particular time of my life.
Mhm.
So that's really helped me from speaking with people, and also knowing that I am not alone. I mean, that's one big lesson I've learned. Like I've sp- I've I've had the opportunity to speak up to about 400, 500 guests basically
Yeah.
so far, and you listen to your story and you're like, wow, deep down within me, I'll be like, I'm not the only one going through this. I mean, I mean, it might not be exactly how they're experiencing it, but in a kind of version, in a different way. Something maybe just one event that they mentioned out of 100 things they said, like,
Yeah.
wow, I felt that before. I've experienced that before. Wow, okay. Then you judge yourself less. You love to learn.
Yeah.
You love to give yourself a little bit of more grace and love yourself more.
Yeah, yeah, it's helpful, right, to have a community of people who, have the same struggles or have the same questions that you have, and when you come together, it makes you feel, like you said, not quite so alone in the questions that you have.
Yes.
That's wonderful. So for people who aren't familiar with it, explain the concept of mirror talk for my audience.
Yes. So the concept of mirror talk is about, okay, so there are two parts to it. The first one is about yourself. I must be honest with you. I mean, most times in the morning when I'm getting ready for the day, I get ready for the day in front of the mirror, like, after taking a shower, maybe
Mhm.
just trying to moisturize and, comb my hair and whatever. And earlier, I used to find out that I look at myself in the mirror and I see all the flaws, everything that's, growing up, people make fun of, okay, the size of my body, the size of every shape of my body. I mean, there are like little details that people make fun of, basically. How your eyes look like, your ears look like, how
Yeah.
everything. And then you see those things in the mirror and start to, hate them or dislike them right in front of the mirror. So the concept of mirror talk is looking at yourself right in the mirror also, and, saying, it's like having affirmations basically also, appreciating everything about yourself, speaking to yourself, because there's this power of, looking, like, we're speaking virtually right now, but there's this power of looking at someone right in the eye,
Mhm.
and speaking to them. You feel connected to them.
Yeah.
And then looking at yourself directly in the eye, you're able to speak directly to your soul basically and say, hey, Anthony, I am beautiful, I am handsome, I am successful. Today is going to be a great day. I'm going to achieve this. I'm going to, fulfill that which I'm meant to fulfill. I have this goal set and I'm going to, achieve all these goals. That way you're able to, you know, pull through. You're able to, overcome all the self-doubt that you might have and all the doubts that people might have over your life, basically. And secondly, the mirror talk is in sense of, people's story, basically. Like,
Mhm.
I might listen to your story and I notice, and it's, to me, to be like a reflection of who I am or what I have experienced or what I am experiencing at the moment. And that way I'm able to see myself through your story. And that helps me to know where my shoe oughts more, or helps me to understand what to do in order to get out of the situation in which I am at the moment. Because if I'm able to identify the problem and I also know the solution I'm supposed to take. That way, that makes my personal growth journey, easier basically
Mm.
to embark on. Because if you share your story and it's like a reflection to me, like a reflection of myself to myself, I'm able to see, oh, that is where I am supposed to, adjust something so that I can enjoy a much more fulfilling life, or become much more happier, or that is the solution to the issue that I'm facing. I sit right in front of me, right in the mirror, basically
Yeah.
staring at me. I'm able to know what next to do in order to make my life better.
Wonderful. That's great. That's a really beautiful idea, I think, and I love that it's so easy to be down on ourselves and focus on our flaws. But I love that you're putting something positive out into the world that helps people to really see the good in themselves and see the beauty in themselves and their potential to go and do great things in the world. I love that. Um, how do you define fulfilling work? Because that's one of the subjects that we talk about on this show. And especially as somebody who is a content creator and you're focused on self reflection and growth, personal development, what does fulfilling work look like to you?
Fulfilling work to me means, I mean, by the way, I love the title of your podcast name, like fulfilling work, meaningful life. That's like, I believe that's something that is very important to everyone. You have to, for me, I think one of my biggest goals is to have like a fulfilling, I think it is to have a fulfilling life
Hmm.
and a meaningful life, basically. So, what does fulfilling life mean to me? It means basically being aligned to myself and aligned to my purpose in
Hmm.
life. What's my purpose? I mean, the reason why I am placed on this planet. And once I'm able to, a fulfilling life, having a fulfilling work also is being aligned to that and knowing it and being aligned to it. And in return, feeling fulfilled or happy with it, basically feeling, at peace with what I'm doing,
Yeah.
feeling, yes, that I'm impacting people's life or I'm doing something positive, you know, for the people around me in the space that I find myself. That's what it means to me.
Many of my listeners are kind of navigating a mid career transition or kind of reinventing themselves, or they're thinking about what their second act in life is going to be, whether that's career or, some other meaningful opportunity that they have. What advice would you give to somebody who feels maybe stuck or disconnected from their purpose in life?
One thing I would say, I'm sorry to plug in again the podcast,
No, please do. Please do. Yeah.
but we have no, we have this saying: pause, take a break, reflect on life. It's like our tagline. If someone that's at that phase in life, I would advise that person. If I were the one, I mean, if I were in that shoes, I would say, just, I mean, don't be too hard on yourself.
Hmm.
Everyone feels stuck at some time, at some point in life. So just pause, and I mean, take some time off intentionally to just reflect on how your journey has been so far. What were the good things that worked for you? What were the lessons you've learned on the way? And then, you know, being also grateful for where you are at the moment. Like, not everyone has the opportunity to achieve everything that you've achieved so far. You are doing wonderfully well. I mean, that's awesome. Even to be able to be at that point where you're stuck it's a privilege, because a lot of people don't even have the opportunity to get half of what you've gotten so far. So
Yeah.
being grateful for that. But yes, now you want to move on. The best thing to do is then also to reflect on what you've done so far, and then see, okay, these five things made me happy, made me feel fulfilled in the past, in what I have done. And what are the five things that are related to these things that I could continue to do in my next phase of life?
Hmm.
Using that to make the decision for the next step to take, basically. Yeah. So if you enjoy, for example, let's say you enjoy speaking with people more, for example, and next phase of your life involves maybe speaking with people or not speaking with people, then okay, I'll go towards the direction of speaking with people more, because I know from what I've been doing in the past, when I speak with people, once I engage with people socially, I feel more fulfilled. I feel much more. I feel happier, basically. I feel accomplished. So then that helps you to make that decision. Okay, now I can move towards that direction. Or is it about some people, let's take creating content, or speaking or interviewing people, for example. Let's use that. Okay, if you enjoy speaking with people, interviewing people, like Anthony's interviewing me right now, that gives you joy, and that gives you joy. Let, just to summarize it, I believe when you're feeling stuck, ask yourself, what brings me joy? What makes me happy? What makes me feel at peace with myself and with what I'm doing at the moment? What can I do and I'll forget time? What can I do? And I even know if I don't get paid for it, I'll still do it over and all over again, basically.
Hmm.
So answering those questions and looking at what you've done in the past that has worked for you could help you come out of that state of being stuck, and then help you to know what next to do in your life journey.
What are your thoughts on time management? Because, and I've talked about this a few times on the show. One of the I think the most important commodity that we have in life is time, right? It's the one thing that we're always running out of. right? Every day we get a little bit older. At some point, we're all gonna leave this earth and go on to the next life. So we're all running out of time in a sense. How do we make the most of the time that we have? And are there any practical tips that you have or things that you do that help you to be intentional about the way that you spend your time?
Yeah. I mean, I believe time management is very, very important. In my opinion, it's very crucial for one to be able to allocate time slots to different tasks during
Hmm.
the day. So, for example, for me, what I do basically is it's good to have a calendar. It's good to have like a very functional, realistic calendar.
Hmm.
Not 20 tasks. And 20 tasks at within a time frame of 2 hours to be
Yeah.
completed. Yeah. So I mean, it's very essential to if you want to it's very essential to be disciplined and intentional about it also. Like have a calendar that is functional, plan out your day if you can, like from when you wake up to when you have to go to bed. It could be very difficult for people that, for example, with children, maybe two, three children,
Yeah.
and have to the children could disrupt it and they're allowed to disrupt it. But it's always important to then set like some goals for yourself. Understand how your routines are, how you work, what's your situation at the moment, and use that to block out time for yourself. And
Hmm.
one thing that also helps is basically this habit stacking, I would say also. Like, so you could take it a bit personal. For example, you could say when I wake up in the morning, let's say there are people out there that have kids, middle-aged people that have kids. Okay, maybe the girls or the children wake up maybe at 6 a.m. Maybe I wake up a little bit earlier at 5 a.m. and I'll do maybe I have to work out a little bit or do some reading, for example. I want to also do some stacking. I'm habit stacking, for example, and say, okay, I'm going to first have a cup of coffee and read a book at the same time, and then do a quick workout before the first child wakes up. And then you're able to take that out of your calendar and say, okay, in terms of fitness, I've ticked the box for the
Hmm.
day, and in terms of maybe being updated on a part of information on what I'm learning at the moment or the next phase of life I'm going in at the moment, you can tick that box also. Then you could have some time for the kids, maybe getting them ready for school and all of that, and that plays out as the day goes. And maybe in the evening also you could block out some time and say, okay, for example, we are podcasters. I'm going to work on a podcast episode for an hour, for example, for between 7 and 8 p.m. because the girls are in bed already, and then one does that. And being able to stick to that, that time plan or the timetable that you set for yourself also helps. But I believe what I'm trying to say is that it's important to manage one's time and know what is taking your energy, what requires your energy in each phase of your life. Also being flexible to know, okay, this is my situation at the moment. I'm a single person. I have all the time in the world. I can do more. Or I'm a married person with kids and I have to commit time to children, blocking those time on your table, on your timetable or your calendar, or I have to spend time with my partner, blocking those time on your timetable or your calendar helps you to then, manage your time properly and know, okay, at this time between 8 and 10 p.m. I am a father or I am a podcaster or I
Yeah.
am I'm a student, basically. Yeah.
I like that. I recently heard somebody talk about this idea of work life balance, and he said that he think from his perspective balance is a myth. It's not a real really an achievable objective, but his advice was to be whatever you're doing, be present in that moment, right? So if you're at work, be at work. If you're at home with your family, be at home with your family. If you're exercising, exercise, and just be present in that moment. And there are going to be times where, like you said, we have to be flexible. Sometimes we're going to have to spend extra hours at work because that's the nature of our job, right?
Mm.
Other times we're going to be in a stage of life where our kids demand more of our time. Whereas, if we're single or if we're empty nesters, we have more flexibility in our time. And so the idea of balance, he says, is a myth. But if we just focus on being where we're at in the moment, then we can, live a life of intention and purpose and meaning and focus on those things that matter most to us in life.
Yeah, I believe that so much too because it's very essential for one to be present, and to be fully focused on what one is doing at the moment. Because I'll talk from personal experience. Sometimes I'm at work, my day job, for example, and I'm thinking about some other thing basically, and then I'm not so productive enough at work, and then I get to work. I have to work longer because I want to fulfill, I want to get something done, and then it spills into the next time slot I have for the next thing, and then I'm like worried about work because I didn't finish what I was supposed to do, and
Right.
then I'm not productive at anything basically. Or at the end of the day, I didn't get to achieve any of the things I want to achieve because I was not fully present as each of the things I was planning to do. So I believe, yeah, I agree to that also, that it's very important to, you know, when one is at work, then you know that okay, I am right now doing this, and once I'm done with this, then I can switch on to the next thing, and I'm another person, and that's in that phase already, and then I do that basically. I'm focused fully on that too.
Yeah. Yeah. You mentioned earlier, you talked about your experience going to church with your friends and you're a Christian. How important is faith to living a meaningful life?
Oh, for me as a Christian, I'll say it's very fundamental. But I believe the spiritual controls the physical for me, and then living a fulfilling life for me is connected to, a lot of people say, the universe, but I'll say God. I've said that God created us to be on this planet, and there's a reason why he did that. Our parents, yeah, came together and had us, conceived us, but there's a particular reason why that sperm met with that egg to form who I am at the moment.
Yeah.
So I believe that I believe it's very spiritual, that process of selection, of which, cell meets with which cell to form who I am. I believe it's divinely orchestrated, basically. So it's, I'll say, living a fulfilling life is then going back to that source, that caused the whole orchestration to say, hey, why did you place me here? What's the reason why I'm here? And can you please, enlighten me a little bit and let me know what I should do so that I can actually live a fulfilled life? Like, do what I'm meant to do so that I can, at the end of my journey, because we are not here forever. At the end of my journey, I can say, yeah, I came to this earth. I was able to do the 5 things or the 2 things that I was placed here to do. And yeah, I can go back.
Love it. Love it. Well, if you could summarize the legacy that you hope to leave with Mirror Talk, what would that be?
Oh, wow, that's a wonderful question. The legacy I'll have to leave is like, we are we are all great beings. It's one legacy I'd like to leave. Like, you are enough. You are enough to fulfill your life journey, to have a meaningful life, to have a great life. Like, you're not just here just because some people make the mistake and they give back to you, or just for being here, just for filling a gap or a slot. You are here for a reason. So if there's a legacy I would like to leave behind through the podcast, it would be that everyone is here for a reason, and you have what it takes. You are enough to have a great and meaningful life.
Well said. Well said. Well, Toby, where can people learn more about you and listen to the show?
Yeah, so I mean, we're available on social media, on Instagram, on X, but you could find all the information on our website, which is mirrortalkpodcast.com. There you could reach out to us. You could also send us an email, by just filling the contact form. There's a contact page, and you could just fill it, and the email goes through us, and the team processes it, and sometimes I answer it directly also. And yeah, I think that's the best way to get across to us. Or the best way also is to listen to the podcast on all
Yeah.
podcast platforms. that's I think that's the best thing to do, to just search Mirror Talk Civil Conversations on any podcast platform, and take a listen to the podcast, and that way how to get across to us too.
Yeah. So listeners, check out Mirror Talk Soulful Conversations. It's a wonderful show, and we'll leave links to the show, to your show, and social media and all that in our show notes for our listeners to find you. Toby, it's been a real pleasure visiting with you. I love what you're doing, and I love your perspective on things. So thank you so much for coming on Fulfilling Work, Meaningful Life. It was great to meet you.
Thank you so much, Anthony. I really appreciate this opportunity. And as I said in the course of answering the questions, I really love your podcast title, Fulfilling Work, Meaningful Life. I mean, I have a question for you, but I didn't want to ask, during the course. I wanted to ask you, Why did you choose that name? Why did you choose that name for your podcast?
That's a great question. So I experimented, or experimented is not the right word. I thought a lot about the name over probably a year period because it took me a while to get the podcast up and going because this is kind of a side project for me. And my real job, I'm an attorney. And so I'm busy and I've got kids and two kids in college, but one still at home. And so it just took a while to kind of get the show up and going. But originally, the show was going to be called Truth and Meaning, a podcast about life. And I think it was my sister that actually came up with that name. And I liked that name. But as I was developing the content, I wanted it to be a little bit more practical for the audience. And I knew that for a lot of us, the careers that we have and the work that we do is such a big part of our lives. And I've observed that a lot of people are just kind of going through the motions in life and they're not happy, they're not fulfilled. They have meaningful things in their lives, they have family or they have church or whatever it is, but just because of the rapid pace that we live today and all of the distractions that we have, it's easy to lose focus on those things that matter most. And so I kind of came up with this idea of what I call the meaning deficit, that, as a culture, as a society, I feel like there's this deficit of meaning that we have in our lives. And so the mission of the show is to help people reconnect with the things that are most important to them. And for a lot of us, I think for most of us, that's the work that we do, right? And so we want to be engaged in fulfilling work, but it's also the other things in our lives, our families, our spouses, our children, grandchildren, our involvement in the community, service, our faith, all of those things that make a meaningful life. And so that's kind of how I came up with the title of the show, Fulfilling Work, Meaningful Life. It was kind of going through that thought process over a period of time. And then eventually I just had to decide on a title. So that's what I went with.
It's a wonderful title. I mean, we all deserve a meaningful life, and we need to know the things that we need to, make use of, the tools that we need to ensure that we enjoy, meaningful life and being connected to our work or to the things that we do that gives us, satisfaction or helps us to have a fulfilling life, basically. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Tobi, again for coming on the show. It's been a wonderful conversation.
Thank you. It has been a privilege speaking with you.